My name is Marlene, and at 34 years old, I never imagined I'd be calling myself a widow. Just a few weeks ago, my husband, Aaron, died suddenly, and while that was devastating enough, nothing prepared me for the nightmare that unfolded after his funeral. I came home expecting quiet grief, but instead, I found my sister-in-law, Clarissa, and her husband already inside my house, luggage unpacked, wine glasses in hand, acting as though they owned the place. Clarissa smirked at me and said, "This house belongs to me now. I already sold your things, so grab what's left and leave." I couldn't stop the bitter laugh that escaped me because she had no clue what was about to happen. But before I dive deeper into this mess, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. And make sure to like this video and subscribe because trust me, you won't want to miss the ending of this story. Aaron and I met over a decade ago at a charity event in Chicago. I was a young grad student volunteering at the art exhibit while he was already working his way up as a financial strategist. The night we met, I accidentally tipped over a crystal vase, and just before it smashed, Aaron caught it midair. My cheeks flushed with embarrassment, and he grinned, saying, "Good thing I've got quick hands. The stock market taught me that." That spark between us lit up the entire night. We ended up talking for hours about art, family, the futures we dreamed of. Unlike most men I'd met, Aaron didn't flaunt his family's wealth. He had this down-to-earth kindness that drew me in instantly. Our whirlwind romance led to a small lakeside wedding within 6 months. His mother, Margaret, welcomed me like a daughter. Missing from that day, though, was his sister, Clarissa. She claimed work obligations kept her away, though I would later learn she just didn't approve of me. That absence was only the beginning of her icy treatment toward me. Aaron and I built our life from scratch. He climbed quickly in finance, while I became an elementary school art teacher. We saved every spare dollar until, 5 years in, we bought our dream home, a colonial-style house with a big garden, creaky hardwood floors, and endless potential. We spent weekends painting, restoring furniture, and planting flowers. Every corner of that house held a piece of us. The only cloud over our happiness was infertility. After years of painful attempts, specialists told me my condition made pregnancy unlikely. We grieved, but Aaron always comforted me. "Family is more than children, we have each other, and that's enough." His love made me feel whole, even when my body felt broken. Still, Aaron's family dynamics were always complicated. His late father, Richard, had built the family's real estate empire with a strict, unforgiving hand. Aaron worked tirelessly to prove himself, while Clarissa leaned on charm and manipulation to maintain her place. Margaret, his mother, often told me how grateful she was that Aaron had found someone steady and kind, because Clarissa had inherited only the ambition without the integrity. Clarissa eventually married Peter, a man with an old last name but very little money of his own after a string of failed ventures. The four of us rarely socialized, but whenever we did, Clarissa never missed a chance to belittle me, snide comments about our modest lifestyle or my career, just teaching kids to finger paint. The last 2 years of our marriage, Aaron grew more secretive about his work. He often stayed late in his home office, muttering about family matters when I asked questions. I respected his privacy, though I sometimes caught glimpses of troubling spreadsheets. 3 months before his death, he insisted we meet with his lawyer to review updated wills and insurance plans. I thought it was just responsible planning. I had no idea he was bracing for a storm. The day he died began so ordinary. He kissed me goodbye, promised Thai takeout for dinner, and left for the office. Hours later, his assistant called, her voice trembling. Aaron had collapsed in a meeting. By the time I reached the hospital, it was too late. At just 40, he was gone, the doctor explaining it was likely an undiagnosed heart condition. My world shattered. Margaret and I clung to each other in grief, but when Clarissa arrived at the hospital, she was unnervingly composed. Instead of tears, she demanded Aaron's keys, wallet, and phone as his sister and family representative. I was too numb to fight, though her coldness stung. When I mentioned Aaron's lawyer had called, her eyes flickered sharply, but she said nothing more. The funeral preparations blurred together. Clarissa bulldozed over my wishes, turning the intimate service I wanted into a grand affair for her business acquaintances. She insisted on things Aaron would have hated: open casket, formal arrangements, even changing the music. "These are family traditions," she said when I objected. Her control over Ev. Everything felt suffocating, but in my grief, I lacked the energy to fight. At the reception, I overheard Clarissa whispering to Peter, "Once the will is read, this house will rightfully return to family hands. She won't last." The words chilled me, but I brushed them off as paranoia. I only wanted to go home, collapse into my bed, and grieve in peace. When I finally returned home after the funeral, something was wrong. A luxury SUV sat in my driveway. Lights glowed inside even though I'd turned everything off that morning. My heart sank. Inside, the house felt alien, furniture rearranged, Aaron's chair gone, family photos stripped from the walls. The air smelled of Clarissa's perfume. She appeared in the doorway, glass of my wine in hand. "Took you long enough," she said coolly. "Peter and I have already moved in. This is the Harrington estate property now." I was too stunned to respond at first. "This is my house," I finally said. "Aaron and I bought it together. My name is on the deed." Clarissa waved her hand dismissively. "Technicality. Dad always intended family properties to remain with blood heirs. Since you couldn't give Aaron children, you have no claim." Her cruelty made me stagger. Years of infertility pain, thrown in my face the very day I buried my husband. She showed me a yellowed copy of their father's will from decades ago, claiming it meant the property defaulted back to the family. But Aaron and I had purchased this house years after Richard died, completely separate from family assets. I told her so, but she smirked, insisting I pack up and leave by morning. Even worse, she casually admitted she'd already sold many of my possessions: wedding gifts, heirlooms, even my grandmother's china. What remained, she said, I could collect from storage. When I refused to leave, she called in a hired security guard to intimidate me. My clothes were stuffed into garbage bags, and even Aaron's wedding ring had vanished from my purse. Broken and overwhelmed, I grabbed a suitcase and walked out of my own home. I stayed with my best friend Natalie, who was horrified at what happened. She called her brother a police officer, but he explained it was a civil matter. Without a court order, the police couldn't remove Clarissa. I barely slept that night, tossing between rage and despair. The next morning, Aaron's lawyer, David, called again. His voice was urgent. "Aaron left instructions for you. Come to my office immediately." When I arrived, David handed me a sealed letter in Aaron's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. "My dearest Marlene," it began. "If you're reading this, then I'm gone. I feared this might happen. For months, I've been investigating Clarissa. She's been siphoning money from the company for years, hiding millions through fake accounts and forged documents. When I confronted her, she threatened to destroy you. I've hidden evidence in my office safe, behind the Lakeview painting. The code is our anniversary date. Everything I owned, including the house, I've left solely to you. Trust David. Trust my mother. Do not trust Peter. He's complicit, though weaker than Clarissa. Protect yourself. Always yours, Aaron." Tears blurred the words as I finished. Aaron had known. He'd been preparing for this. The will was ironclad. Everything was mine. But Clarissa had no idea what evidence I now held. David urged me to secure the USB drive immediately. With Natalie's help, I snuck back into the house while Clarissa was out. Using the hidden spare key, we slipped inside and retrieved the safe contents exactly where Aaron described. Inside were financial records, recordings of Clarissa's threats, and proof of years of embezzlement. Most damning was her voice captured on audio. "Expose me, Aaron, and I'll ruin Marlene. I'll strip her of everything until she's crawling in the dirt." Hearing it made my blood run cold. That night, as I pored through the files, I realized Aaron had been preparing to blow the whistle on her at the next board meeting. But now it was on me to finish what he started. The next morning, Margaret called me in tears. "Marlene, Clarissa has barred me from visiting Aaron's grave. She changed the cemetery code and says as executor she controls access." Hearing that broke me. Margaret had already lost her husband, and now she couldn't even lay flowers at her son's resting place. I promised her things would not stay this way. I returned to David with Aaron's letter and the USB drive. His face hardened as he reviewed the files. "This is more than a family squabble," he said. "These are federal crimes, embezzlement, forgery, fraud. With this, we can get an injunction against Clarissa. But first, we need to move fast before she destroys more evidence." I agreed, though fear twisted my stomach. Clarissa had already proven she'd go to unthinkable lengths. Meanwhile, she escalated her attacks. My possessions were sold off to strangers online. She spread vicious lies that Aaron had unhappy that I had manipulated him, that I had refused him children. She even called my school, claiming I was unstable and unfit to teach. My principal, though sympathetic, placed me on leave for my well-being. I had lost my husband, my home, and now my career, all thanks to her. The worst was yet to come. Clarissa's attorney sent me papers challenging Aaron's will, claiming I'd exerted undue influence during his supposed diminished capacity. It was a transparent, stalling tactic, but effective. In the meantime, Clarissa tightened her grip on the house, even hiring guards to block me from the driveway. I watched helplessly as she ripped up the gardens Aaron and I had planted, replacing them with her gaudy designs. Robert, her husband, eventually reached out in secret. We met at a cafe, his face pale and guilty. "I never wanted this," he whispered. "She's forging documents backdating company records, even creating a fake codicil to Aaron's will. She has someone inside the records office helping her. If she goes down, she'll drag me with her." He slid me a folded sheet, dates, names, account numbers. "This is everything. Use it, but you never saw me." Then he left, shoulders hunched, a man destroyed by fear and cowardice. Days later, Margaret collapsed after another confrontation with Clarissa at the family mausoleum. Stress had triggered chest pains, landing her in the hospital. Seeing her frail in that bed ignited something inside me. Clarissa wasn't just stealing my home, she was destroying everyone around her. I swore I wouldn't let Aaron's sacrifice go to waste. The court date arrived, tension thick in the air. Clarissa strutted in with her sharp-tongued lawyer, Victor, dressed like she was attending a victory gala. She shot me a look of triumph, as if the outcome were already decided. David leaned close and whispered, "Stay calm, we have something they don't know about." The judge entered, and David immediately requested a recess. "Your Honor, we've received crucial evidence. Members of the Harrington Investments Board are on their way." Clarissa's confident smile twitched, but she recovered quickly. During the break, she whispered furiously with Victor, her eyes darting toward me like daggers. When court resumed, 3 senior board members filed in. Among them was Walter, a man who had worked alongside Aaron's father for decades. Their presence alone shifted the atmosphere. David presented Aaron's files, spreadsheets proving embezzlement, forged invoices, and the chilling audio of Clarissa threatening Aaron. As her voice snarled through the courtroom speakers, "If you expose me, I'll ruin her life. She'll lose everything." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Clarissa's face drained of color. Robert kept his eyes down, unable to look at anyone. Victor scrambled with objections, but the evidence was undeniable. The board members confirmed the documents matched their internal audits. Walter himself addressed the judge. "Your Honor, these allegations are true. Company accounts under Clarissa's control have been frozen, and we've contacted federal authorities." Clarissa's composure finally cracked. She jumped to her feet, shouting, "This is a conspiracy. Aaron always had everything: our father's respect, the company, even mother's love. That house was supposed to be mine." Her voice shook with rage. "She can't even give him children. She has no right to carry our legacy." Murmurs of disgust spread through the courtroom at her cruelty. The judge silenced the room. "Mrs. Miller, not only do you lack legal claim to this property, but your actions suggest serious criminal offenses. I am granting an emergency injunction. You are to vacate the residence immediately, return all removed belongings, and cease any contact with Mrs. Harrington." He slammed his gavel. "Furthermore, I am referring this matter to law enforcement." At that moment, the doors opened. 2 officers entered, followed by a woman in a dark suit flashing an FBI badge. Clarissa Miller, you are under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, and financial crimes across state lines. The room froze as handcuffs clicked around her wrists. She screamed accusations of betrayal, but no one moved to defend her. Even Robert sat slumped, defeated. As Clarissa was led away, I finally exhaled. The weight I'd carried since Aaron's death lifted, just slightly, but enough to breathe again. Walter approached me afterward. "Aaron was right about you," he said quietly. "He fought for truth until the end. You've carried it forward." I nodded, holding back tears. All I want is to keep his legacy intact and to protect Margaret. Walter placed a hand on my shoulder. "We'll make sure of it." Robert shuffled toward me, guilt etched on his face. "I'm divorcing her," he said softly. "I saved some of your belongings before she sold everything. They're at my place." I took the key he offered, but said nothing. His cowardice when it mattered most had cost too much. Hey. Walking out of the courthouse, the sun felt warmer than it had in weeks. Natalie drove me back toward my home, my home. For the first time since Aaron's funeral, I felt like I might actually set foot inside without being torn apart. The aftermath was both bitter and healing. Many possessions were gone forever, and parts of the house bore scars of her spiteful renovations. But it was mine again. Margaret moved into the guest suite so she wouldn't be alone. Together, we rebuilt, not just the house, but pieces of ourselves. The company board restored Aaron's shares to me and offered support for a foundation in his honor. With David's help, I launched the Aaron Harrington Trust, providing legal and financial aid to widows facing property theft or family exploitation. Turning tragedy into purpose gave me strength. Each woman we helped was another way Aaron's integrity lived on. Healing wasn't simple. Some mornings, grief still crushed me. But gradually, teaching art again, planting flowers in the garden, and laughing with Margaret on the porch stitched life back together. I even turned Aaron's office into my art studio, keeping the painting of Lakeview above the safe as a reminder of his foresight and love. Months later, Clarissa was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. The evidence was overwhelming, and even her expensive lawyer couldn't spin her way out. Watching her led away in shackles didn't bring joy, only relief that her destruction had finally stopped. A year after Aaron's death, I stood at his grave with fresh flowers. "I kept our home," I whispered. "I kept Margaret safe. I'm trying to live the life you wanted for me." Tears came, but they felt lighter than before. Not just grief, gratitude too. That night, Margaret gave me a journal Aaron had left in her care. Inside were his private thoughts, reflections on our love, plans for our future, his fears about his health, and his hopes that I'd never stop creating. The final entry read, "If love is measured by how it changes us, then what Marlene and I share is beyond measure. She made me better. Whatever happens, our love is my greatest legacy." Those words became my anchor. Life would never be the same, but his love had shaped me into someone strong enough to face even Clarissa's cruelty. And though she tried to erase me, she only made my resolve stronger. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, share your story in the comments. Sometimes the only way forward is through, and your story might help someone else find their strength. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of survival and justice, because even when everything is stolen, hope can still be reclaimed.